Okay, so I wanted to do this video to basically show you how you could take samples of different sorts and make songs to use it for basically inspirations. So we'll start with grabbing a loop. Okay, so here's the loop. Now, this is Eldre's drum loop from one of his packs I bought. I think it's the Eldre Volume Kit 4. So in Ableton, and I believe this is in Logic too, that you can, I'm not sure about Fruity Loops, but you can convert the drums to MIDI. And that's basically what I did right here. So you heard this drum sample, then I took this, converted it to MIDI, and it gave me, here, I'll show you exactly what it gives you. We'll do it ourselves. Just convert drums to loop. And you'll see down here, it creates the MIDI with what it thinks the hats are, the snare, and the kick. Because that's basically all that's going on in here right now. So what I did was, you don't have to use all this. You could just take portions of these hats and then copy them to a track where you have a hat. So for instance, here's the hat I chose. Hopefully you can hear that. And then I just took and cut out a section of it, like 2 bars, or not even 2 bars. I just cut a bar out, and that became my hat, right? So now I'm gonna mute all this stuff so you don't hear it, and then you can hear just the, here, I'll just let you hear the hat. Well, you hear the chords going. Okay. So that's taking something and building something new from it, right? Then I did my own snares. I actually originally was gonna take the snares from there, but I didn't really care for it. So I used my own snare here. This is a from, what's his name? Oh Lord, SP Vids. One of his snares and one of his packs. I want to say it's like volume 4. He has like 5 volumes out too, but I think that's volume 4. And then I did the same. I've used one of his kicks. I think that's the kick he made. And then on the kick, I did take the kicks. I believe I took the kicks. Yeah, I took the kicks from that. Let me Command J so you can see what it looks like. There's the kicks from the Eldre. So it's a SP Vids kick that I have, but it's the Eldre right here. See that one? So it's using that. So I'm just using bits and pieces from different things to create something new. And then here's what it sounds like together. I'll take the chords out just so you can just hear the drums. I did not quantize any of this stuff due to the fact that I wanted to still have that groove and that swing that it has. So that's my suggestion. Don't quantize too much if you don't want to lose your groove that you created. If you do quantize and later want to get a groove, I know in Ableton they have grooves. You can extract a groove from a, like, see if I like this groove, I can right click and be like, okay, I want to extract the groove. And it'll take what it thinks the groove is, the swing. The groove, when we say groove, it means swing, or the swing of how it sounds, right? But the groove sounds better just because we think of bass and we think of drums as creating this groove that you vibe with. Anyway, so that's one way to do it. That's the drums. Now let's talk about chords. Now, I usually use Scalar too, and I buy the Prism packs because they create all these cool jazz and different sounds that I like. And that's the easy route to go if you want to get into like playing some chords. Here, let's turn this back on. So you have all these chords. Oh, you can't see it. Right here. See where my mouse is? Right there. All these chords. And they're in an order where you could play them straight if you wanted to. But I'd never do that. I always create my own. I always keep the human eyes on both the velocity as well as that, just because it's kind of nice to get the flow down that way. And then I'll just play in the groove the way I feel. If you record to the track now in Scalar, in other programs that on the actual track they'll have a MIDI input, and that's usually where you have Scalar. On Ableton, you have to build one and then send it in. But then what that allows you to do is use it on multiple tracks. So it's kind of nice. Either way, it works out for whatever way you choose. So then here's what I built with the chords. And I'm using Kaelin Ellis Essentials Rhodes, I think. Is it called Rhodes? Electric Key. He called it Electric Key. This is the 1.2. I think he has a new one out. I haven't grabbed that one yet. I might try to grab it. If I get it, it'll probably be during maybe a Black Friday sale or something like that. I might grab it. I have so many Rhodes. I really don't need them, so I just did it to kind of support him, basically, because I like his videos and stuff that he does. But yeah, I really don't need them. But I would definitely say if you want something in Ableton, that's a great one to have that works only in Ableton. If you don't want something in Ableton, then there's so many out there if you need Rhodes. I mean, you can go Spitfire Audio, you can go Spectrasonics if you want to get Keyscape, has really good stuff. I even like the Native Instruments but it requires you buying a lot for that. I would say if you're looking for something more affordable, take a look at the Spitfire Audio stuff. I think each one of theirs is like, their stuff is like $30. You can get the $30 ones and they work just fine. If you want something even different than that, then you might have to start looking into some of the other makers out there that have them, XLN and whoever else makes Rhodes and things. But anywho, whatever you use, there you have it. By the way, there's some built into Ableton, and I'm sure if you have other, I know if you got Logic, you're going to have some good sounds, so you don't have to go buy more sounds. Just use what you have. Ableton, I think under Analog, has piano and keys. Yeah, they have an electric piano muted. They have a few things that you can use. They sound okay. You might have to doctor them up a little bit, which is why I use the Kaelin Ellis KFX 2.1. You can do I have a sample rate going on with a little saturation. All these things that's in here, though, is in Ableton. If you have Ableton, he just put them in a rack form for you, so you don't have to go gathering each part to do it. But if you don't have the money to buy the Kaelin effects, KFX 2.1, then just use what you got, okay? Put a little saturation on it to warm the sound up a little bit. Put a little bit of a little sample delay on it, which is, cool. It makes it sound. There's other free stuff out there too, by the way, on that. Anyway, I don't want to get too far off from the subject. So this is a simple way to do it. But let's say you have this sound you like from this artist, maybe, and I'm not going to use an actual artist. I'm just going to use a sample that I have from co-producer. So let's go jazz chords, just picking something here. All right, so I'm going to watch this. I'm going to duplicate this track here. And the only reason I'm doing this is because then I can show you that you can drag in audio, and we're going to say replace, yes. And you'll see it tries to pick what it thinks the chords are in that particular piece of audio. So what I'm going to have to do is this is on, yeah, so this is showing up here on this one. Let's just duplicate this one. And on this one, we're going to pick the other scalar track. Boom. So now, all right, so now we're using this scalar. So that's a note with no fifth in it. That's just a 1 and a 3. So this is in B flat Dorian mode. That's what it's saying this is. But let's get rid of this. Let's say you like the sound of one of these chords, but you really want to just use B flat Dorian. If you look down here, you can just use B flat Dorian, okay? And then add to the pattern mode down here if you find chords you want. So like we're in triads, we could do sevenths, which sounds very soulful. Ninths, definitely. You can drop these chords down here and then invert. Grab a chord from here. And now you can play these chords down here. That sounds terrible. By the way, sorry, but it just did. Let's get rid of that, remove that. Okay, and I'm going to remove this too. So that's one option. Scalar does pretty good with pulling chords from something. At least I think it does pretty good. Is it great? No. Is it usable and useful? Yeah, you could definitely do it. I'm going to put this one into here. You have to find a good sample of whatever you're using if you want it to sound good. But remember, this is not sample chopping. There's a difference. Like I'm just using the chord ideas from there. So perhaps if you figure out, hey, this sounds good in B flat, and B flat as a Dorian, you might use some chords that are in B flat Dorian by going to the scales, click on B flat, right? And then find the scale you want, which is Dorian. And there you go. Now it's set to ninths down here. You could change the voicings too, if you wanted to, and use different voicings. Or different variations of the sonic. You get real deep here. I'm not going to get that deep. I'm just showing you that you have. Or you can use what this does really well is, let's say you find, let's go back to voicing one. Let's go to ninth chords. You're like, oh yeah, that one sounds great. But you don't know where to go. Well, Scalar has suggestion. So I always say use the suggestion and it'll give you your next chord that it thinks, and you can go through them and find, this sounds pretty good. All right, then it's going to give you more suggestions for the next chord. Let's try that one. Let's try that one. See, I'm just picking chords. I'm not even really tripping because these are all tonal variations. All right, so you want to test them now. So I don't care for this one. So let's click back on it, and then you'll see it gives you the suggestions. Click back on the first one before it, then pick the suggestion, okay? I'm gonna take that chord, I like it. So you see how I did that? If I'm wherever the chord I'm on, it's suggesting for the next chord. So just and if you look down here, you can slide over and just kind of want like a diminished chord. I'm just picking chords. Okay. So you see how easy it is to do that. So maybe you take the song or the sample and you say, oh, I like this sample, but I like this one chord. Just start with that one chord and then just throw it into this bottom piece down here, hit the suggest button, and just start building from there and let it help you to get to suggest. If you don't want to play into it, you can do MIDI capture and play it on here, or you can just drag and drop it on the chords onto the file. The performing option is still available. I usually use a strum and I'll do it on a slow. So then let's turn off this. I'm going to show you what I mean. Let's turn off this one. So we're going to record here, disregard this track because it's not even on. And we'll just record. Okay, so that was a little long. I do like the lingering of this one, but for the sake of we're trying to keep it in time. Disregard me if I'm moving too fast here. I'm just trying to show you. So you see how I just duplicated that? It's the same thing. Then I join them together. You can do this stuff in any of the DAWs. Or it's the same thing as copying and pasting, okay? It's just, to me, it's just quicker this way. So just an idea of different ways you can put together song parts. I like to do mine in 8 bars, not 8 chords, but 8 bars. You could do 4 if you want, but I tend to do 8 just so it has some variation, because I don't want my stuff to sound super repetitive. I mean, it already is going to sound some repetitive. It's a song, but to some degree. But and then if you're going to play something repetitive, like let's say I'm just going to play. Then do this right here. Play it longer. So I'm going to do a 4 chords, which is going to be 4 bars basically. And then I'm going to play it twice. So at least that it's some variation in the way I play it. Watch. Okay, so now, at least, even though I did kind of change that up a little bit. So it's the same chords. Okay, so you see how I did that? So I just took, instead of just making a 4 and then just keep duplicating it, to lengthen it up a little bit and give you some variation in the sound, which you can see all these notes hit at different times. They're a little off here and there because they're also strumming it. You can see I'm strumming it just to give it some variation. But if I played this without, let's say I played it without the strum. So I'm going to turn the strumming off. Right, and so now I'm going to play it again. I'm going to get rid of that, just record it again, but I'm going to show you what I mean by the difference. Okay. I'm not really caring what I actually play, but you can see even when it's not strummed, because even though these first two chords here, so like where this chord is and this chord match this chord, they're different. See how the velocities are varied a little bit? There's a little variation in the way I played it so that it doesn't get so stagnant. So that's all I'm saying is that now you have, by the time the listener figures out that you just created a loop that's 8 bar, they're so caught up in the groove, they're not worried about it, right? But when you do it only 4 bars and you just keep like here, and then you just keep looping and loop like this, the for some reason the ear, I usually can pick up pretty good unless you disguise it really well, that it sounds the same. Because when that first note hits, it still sounds exactly like the previous first note. So by the time I get to the end of a 4 bar riff, I'm usually, unless you just really good at disguising, I could be like, man, is that a loop? Versus like if you just play it, even though because think about it, I'm not playing the full on chord. I'm just triggering the chord to be played. But even with that, because I have humanize on, it's going to vary it a little bit each time. And then there's another trick that I'll use sometimes. So I'm going to stretch this out back to 8. Is you can go down and select everything and just vary the velocity range. Just put it a little bit less than what it is. So that every time it plays, I think it varies the hits a little bit more. So there's just ways to get it. There's the randomization here of randomizing these. I don't do that on this type of stuff too much because it could get real wonky and then you won't be able to keep up with it. But let's just say the purpose is, and I'm showing you this, is that you can create some 8 bar riffs or even, and then too, like another thing, like if this is going to be your main verse, let's say, create a different one. So let's just say this is the verse. We'll put this first one back on now so you can see it. Create two different variations or 2 different things. So that when he gets here, this is probably not going to sound good because these different chords. But you see what I mean? That's 16. So now that's 16 and they're different. So the verse could have maybe less movement in the verse, and then the chorus will have way more movement because maybe you're trying to make it a little more energetic or whatever the case may be. This is not even an energetic song. This is more of like a relaxing song, but I'm just saying that to get some variation in it, do that. And then use packs and whatever you can find and see how they played the chords. Like find out what the chords are, and then borrow chords here, and then take that and build, and then use suggested other chords that could go with it, and find your way through it. If you don't really play chords and you're more of just a sample base, then my suggestion would be, let me find some roads. So then my suggestion for you would be take, like, let's say this loop here. Actually, you know what? Let's make a MIDI track. This is something different. I'm going to minimize all this stuff so it don't take up so much space. And this too. So take a MIDI track. And then on the MIDI track, like this is in Ableton. I can't speak for all DAWs, but I'm sure it's similar. Or even on like the MPC, you can do this type of stuff. And then chop your samples up, however you're going to chop them, right? So I'm going to go in and go to slice mode on here. And then I'm going to go by the beats. Nope. This is at a fourth. I'm going to just do per bar. Okay, I'm going to do 1 per bar. So now you have, I think it starts on C1. And people that chop, that do sample chop, stuff like that, they know how to do this. You can put this on trigger, or you can put it on gate. So gate is when you just want to hold it down. Trigger is like a 1 shot. So use this to your advantage. This is in everything now. Beatmaker 3, anything you use, Koala, you can do this. Just chop the sample up and play it back in a rhythmic pattern. Do something. This isn't I'm not the greatest at this because I don't do this all the time, but here, let's cut that off and I'll put the beat on that I can turn the gain up on this. So whatever you're gonna do, but this isn't the greatest example, but I'm just showing you that you can make some cool stuff like this, even if you don't know what the chords are, don't understand it. Use your ears. You don't have to play the chords in exact order. Switch them around. Whatever you want to do. So anyway, that's one way to do it. You can also transpose this stuff too to make it sound different. So when you play it, I don't know. I'm just showing you just ideas that you can do. This is how I make music, this way all the time. Even if I don't know what the chords are, even if I don't know what it is, you can always figure out something. There's so many tools nowadays. It's not like it used to be where you really had to know. Now you can practically throw anything into something and figure it out. So that's all for this video. It's a little longer than what I wanted to do, but I feel like it was important just to show people, like when you're putting together chord progressions or ideas or whatever, or taking stuff from other people, at least take parts of it and then build around those parts. You don't need to take the full song and just copy it, because that's not really your music at that point. You're just copying it. But you can use this stuff to really manipulate. And I didn't even get into the other side of it, which is like micro chopping, where you can chop stuff even finer and manipulate it, or granularizing sounds to make new sounds. There's so many ways. But yeah, keep making music, try stuff out, find little methods that work for you, and then add to your repertoire as far as how you make music. And it'll make you enjoy music more when you switch up the workflows a little bit and try new stuff. All right, I'm out.